imagine if you just stay in your current place in the rut that you're in right now, what does your future self say about that? Instead of thinking about the risk that feels uncomfortable now, think about the risk of not taking action and amplify that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Reflect Forward. I'm your host, Kerry Siggins, and I am so glad you are here today. Today, my guest is Jill Schulman. She is a former U.S. Marine Corps officer, and she's a leader development expert and the founder of the Breakthrough Leadership Group. She has dedicated her career to studying the science of bravery, and that's what we talk about today. Such a fun conversation. I know you're going to enjoy it. She has a new book coming out, and you're going to learn a lot from this podcast. So hang tight, and I'll be right back with Jill. Welcome back, everyone. I have Jill Schulman with me, and I'm so excited to jump into this conversation of bravery. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Jill.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your background. I'm super curious. I know you were a Marine Corps officer. I'd love to start with that. Why did you decide that you wanted to go into the Marines?
My first career was being a Marine. So I decided to go in the Marine Corps. Number one is I grew up in Minnesota, and I think I just wanted an opportunity to spread my wings and see the world. And I applied for a full ride scholarship, an ROTC. It was a Naval ROTC, Marine Corps Option Scholarship. And when I was lucky enough to be awarded it, you can go to school anywhere you want in the United States. It's like a free ticket anywhere you get accepted. And then I had a school, University of San Diego, that recruited me to come to their school. They'd pay for my room and board if I used my scholarship there. When you grew up in Minnesota, back when I was growing up in the 90s, and you just see on TV like Southern California and palm trees. So the Marine Corps was something that was really meaningful that I wanted to do. And it also just allowed me to, experience some things and get out of Minnesota. Love my Minnesota roots. But I live in Southern California now, and I'm not going back.
I don't blame you. Minnesota can be very cold in the winter.
Exactly.
And so how long were you in the Marine Corps?
I was in the Marine Corps for 5 years. I had to do a minimum of 4. I stayed a little bit longer, 5, and then I decided to get out. Yeah, so 5 years. And I always joke that my first job was blowing things up. Like literally, that was what my Marines did, because I was a combat engineer officer, which means that we build things and blow things up. And then I started selling drugs, the legal kind, in the pharmaceutical industry. In fact, I was getting out of the Marine Corps. And I know for a lot of people, they think that you have to be so brave to go into the service, like to be a Marine. And I would agree. I think it's a very honorable and is a brave thing to do, as I serve myself. But when you get out of the military and the only thing you know is the military, it's actually really scary to get out of the military. So I think that was kind of a brave leap for me to get out. There's a lot of recruiters that were trying to place us junior officers, and one of them just encouraged me to practice my interviewing skills with these pharmaceutical companies that were hiring people. The second hiring manager I interviewed with was a former Marine, and I ended up spending about 13 years in the pharmaceutical industry.
And what was that like? I'm sure an interesting ride.
Different. Like I go from blowing things up in the Marine Corps to pharmaceutical sales. I didn't even want to go in the interview because the recruiters were like, this is a great industry, you should do it. And I was like, I'm a captain of Marines. I'm above that. Like sales, I was a little snobby. But when I got in the industry, I loved it. I fell in love with it. It's such an amazing industry. I learned how much I love science. You have to know more about the science and the clinical evidence than the doctors do. So they teach you how to do that. So I just fell in love with the science. And then everything you're doing is in service of the patient. So it's something meaningful. So it's like a little theme between the two. Serving our country has got the meaning. Working for the pharmaceutical industry, usually you're trying to help patients with your products. You've got that sense of meaning. I absolutely loved it. And I did really well and moved up pretty quickly.
That's wonderful. What made you start your own company? You now are the CEO and founder of Breakthrough Leadership Group. So Can you tell us a little bit about that transition?
I got a big promotion to like my dream job in the pharmaceutical company I was with. And it required a move to Chicago. But I couldn't move to Chicago because my husband had furniture stores, like brick and mortar furniture stores. It just wasn't possible. So they allowed me to commute in. I had 2 young kids. I thought, no problem. I can just fly in every week. Well, I came home once on a Friday, picked up my daughter from kindergarten, my little baby girl who's now 18. But when I picked her up from kindergarten, she had a picture of the family and I wasn't in it. So it's one of those moments where you're like, of course it stung, but it gave me that awakening. And I was doing leadership development at the pharmaceutical company. That was the role that I was in. And so I went out on my own. It was time to make a change. And I didn't realize the impact it was having. So it ended up being a good thing. So I did the same type of work. And a lot of the industry that I serve is still in the pharmaceutical biotech device industry. So kind of same job, but I just did it on my own instead.
But that's still not an insignificant leap, going from a guaranteed paycheck to now on your own, even if you obviously have the skills, maybe even some clients, right?
Yeah.
But it still takes a lot of courage. So how did you overcome that and make that leap?
So it wasn't that I just decided to start my own business. There's a little side story in there. So this happened with my daughter. When this happened, I'm like, I got to have a change. A couple of my colleagues at that company were recruited by another company, and they had an opening in Southern California. It was basically Southern California and Hawaii was the responsibility. I was recruited to that company. I started working there. But the culture in that company, amazing company, but I was in a leadership position that was very highly coveted, and the amount of hours I needed to work to be effective made me home less than when I was going to Chicago. And I had another one of those moments where I'm like, what am I doing? Right. So then I decided not to start the business. I decided to embark on a journey that ended up being the biggest failure of my life. And that was to become a stay-at-home mom. It was such a great idea. Like, I just want to be home. I want to be with the kids. I enjoyed it for the first month. And then I'm like, what? And of course you're busy because you're doing stuff, but I just missed the intellectual like stimulation. I missed the challenge. I have different types of challenges, but I was not happy. I was miserable. And I'm very lucky because all the people in my old company I kept in touch with. And instead of having all the internal leadership development people deliver their classes, they wanted to hire some external consultants. So I kept in touch with them, and they basically said, hey, is there any way you would come to Chicago like once a month for a couple of days? And I was like,
yes, please.
Yes. And so I had a nice little like on-ramp to get it started. And then it took off from there. Within a year, I was like full-time. I was very, very lucky. It took a lot of bravery to say, okay, can I just leave this job with this paycheck and all that? And my husband was doing well with his furniture business, but it was still a little bit of a scary step. Sometimes you go down a road and you just realize it's the wrong road, and you just got to back up and adjust. So it was a good lesson.
You called it a failure. So talk to me a little bit about how you reconciled that, right? Saying, okay, I'm going to try this stay-at-home mom thing. It's not for me. Was there guilty feelings associated with having to go back out in the workplace?
I think what I found is, and here's what I know based on positive psychology research as well, is you really need to live accordance with your top character strengths or values in order for you to be happy.
Yeah.
One of my top strengths is accomplishment. It's drive. So that's what I was missing. And it was many years later that I went back to school and studied positive psychology. And when I was learning it for the first time, this gentleman was teaching us. He goes, when you are not able to demonstrate your top strength or live according to that top character strength, it's like you don't have oxygen. It feels horrible. And so that's where I think I retrospectively look back and go, that's why I just wasn't happy. I think the hardest thing was I don't want to judge anyone else that stays home. In fact, if anything, I put them up on a pedestal and go, wow, how do you do this? It's really hard work. It's just different work. But I was just missing out on that sense of accomplishment or significance or impact that I could make in a different way. And I didn't feel the guilt because I decided in starting my own business, I could decide how much I travel and how much I'm home. Now, if you ask my family, I could probably go out there and say, what do you guys think? They'd probably say, you probably would still work too much, but I definitely have more balance. I can choose when to work. I take 4 to 6 weeks off a year to make sure that I'm home with family during holidays, birthdays, spring breaks, wherever. And I didn't do that before. So I'm doing better. I'm not perfect yet, but I have more balance.
I love that. I have one son, and I had him after I became a CEO. And there was never any doubt that I was not going to be a stay-at-home mom. And I've never felt guilty about it either. And I feel like I'm being a really good role model for my son about what a strong, smart, driven, powerful woman can do and achieve and try to find that balance, which of course it's often lopsided, making it work. If you're figuring out how to make it work. And yeah, I am with you. I have a ton of respect for stay-at-home moms, but I was just never part of my path.
I completely agree with you. I think I'm setting a great example, but also like I love my work. It's not like I'm just grinding and negative. Like I love my work. And because I love my work and I'm happy with what I do and the impact that I have, then I'm a more joyful person at home. for me, because I wasn't happy with what I was doing, I was home more, but I wasn't as pleasant. Let me go and work and have the impact. And when I come home, I can be the best mom. And we have to prioritize certain time to spend the quality time. We can't spend all of our time at work. Like we know, again, from positive psychology, in the quality of our relationships is a predictor of our overall happiness for both our kids and us. So we have to pay attention to it. So it's kind of like the Stephen Covey big rocks thing that we've probably seen, right? Like I got big rocks in the company, but one of my biggest rocks is the family. And I find the time.
And I think it's really important for your kids to see you be happy. I am going through a divorce right now, and it was really hard for my son at first. And now he says, "You're both so much happier." And that makes me happier, even though it's hard because when I'm with one parent, I miss the other, and I wish it wasn't that way. It's good to see you happy. And he's 12 years old, and be able to see that clearly and articulate it. I think that's really important. And I think that plays out with the joy that you find in your work too. I think that it's really important for your kids to see that you are happy working because that's what you want for them, right?
My kids are 18 and 20 now, and they're always worried, like, what do I want to do? And they just sometimes are so stressed, they don't know exactly what their career's going to be. I just always tell them, like, find what you enjoy, what interests you, and follow that. Let that be your guide. Because I think so many people just like, where am I going to make the most money? Like, no, just allow like your passions, your likes. There's going to be these little signs, right? Of, oh, I love interacting with people. So if you're an extrovert and you love interacting with people, what's a type of a career or job where you can do that? Or if you're really analytical and you like studying things, if you find something that you enjoy or at least don't mind doing, you're going to probably be pretty happy during your life because you're going to work half of your time or what 2/3 of your waking hours you're going to be working. So you better find something that you don't hate.
I went to the Berkshire Hathaway annual meeting this year, and I've never been before. And it was really interesting because, of course, Warren Buffett says he's going to step down from being CEO at the end of the year. So it was it was very emotional for a lot of people in the audience. It was very cool. But one of the things that he talked about was that he doesn't believe in the 10,000 hours, right? Mastery does require practice, but that is not how you find what you're good at and your passion. He said, figure out what you like to do and go do more of that. It's so simple. It's not always easy because you have to try different things. And especially at that age, right, 18 or 20, where you just don't have a lot of experience, you have to go try different things to be like, oh, I like that, or no, I don't like that. But I really appreciated just how clearly he said it. Find something that you're good at and go get even better at it because you're much more likely to be successful and be happier and find joy in your life when you are aligning your job with your strengths.
So true. For all of us, including our kids, you mentioned something that really stuck out to me. It's a little bit of an experiment. You're not going to know until you dip your toe in the water and go, oh, what is this? Oh, I really like that. Or, oh, I don't like this. Kind of like me at the stay-at-home mom thing. So this is where you just got to keep experimenting. You're going to connect the little dots. I like this, and you're going to figure out what is best for you.
And especially when you do it for yourself. I went to engineering school, and it was about making money. I grew up without a whole lot in a small rural town. And so I was like, oh, engineers make a lot of money, so I'm going to go do that. And I was so miserable. And it took me it was through college and a couple of years post-career being in a pretty dark place to be like, why am I doing this for other people? Why am I listening to what other people are telling me that I'm good at? That pressure when you're that age is really hard. And not just then. I think a lot of us still are stuck in that doing things for other people. And it just makes us so miserable.
If you're just in a rut and you're just like letting life just take you and you're just kind of stuck or you're drifting, that's where you've got to make a decision. And I think sometimes when you're drifting or you're like in this rut, it's not like life is horrible. You just really dread work and you're just blah. However, if you really want to live your best life, if you want to flourish, stepping out of that stream that's very strong and doing something different is scary.
That's a great segue into what you are so passionate about, which is bravery, is self-leadership. I love the self-leadership concept. I wrote about it in my book, The Ownership Mindset, too. Let's talk a little bit about why bravery is so important and how you developed this passion around teaching leaders how to be more courageous.
About 3 years ago, I went back to school to study positive psychology. So I've had my business for about 8 or 9 years. And I feel like about every 8 to 10 years, I need to make a huge shift in what my career path is. I still love doing my leadership development stuff, but I needed a challenge for myself. So I went back to school, studied positive psychology at Penn under Marty Seligman, learning all about the science of happiness and well-being. The reason I was studying it is because I realized there's a lot of intersections with leadership and how do you drive results in an organization. It's about culture and how the science of positive psychology impact results. And there's definitely a lot of evidence there. One of the things that holds people back from living their happiest life is fear. Fear of failure, fear of uncertainty, fear in so many different ways holds us back from taking steps toward what we really want. And I'm like, wow, if fear is the roadblock that's getting in the way, how do we help people overcome it? And that's where bravery comes in. Bravery is actually defined not as becoming fearless. It's about taking steps forwards in the presence of fear. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. I think we all know that. And there's a lot of motivational speakers out there. Will go up there and they'll pound their chest on the stage and go, look at how brave I am. Like I climbed Mount Everest, or I did this, be like me. And then I've been in the audience. I'm like, wow, that's so awesome. And then you go back home and you don't do anything different. Like you just felt really inspired for an hour or two. So I really wanted to go like, how do people become braver to be more successful and live a better life? And because I'm the science geek, like I don't want just my opinion as a Marine. I want to know with scientific certainty, what are the things based on psychology, neurology, developmental psychology, et cetera, that if I can teach people to do, I know that they can stop allowing fear to hold them back from what they really want. So that's what my capstone was on, is the science of bravery. And so what I've discovered and what I bring to organizations is I teach them, I spend time first on mindset. A lot of organizations, like they train people on the thing. You're a bunch of accountants, we're going to have more training on accounting. But spending time teaching people some of these other skills, like the science of bravery, like that's going to have a much bigger impact on results than sometimes the technical skills. So there's mindset, there's brave actions, and brave relationships. And it's the combination of those three. When people learn all three together, it gives people the confidence to take a step forward in the presence of fear. I could spend an hour on each of those. I don't want to bore you with all the science, but really if people, they first have to win the battle in their mind. Like they just have to believe it's possible to be able to achieve this hard thing that I'm trying to achieve at work. So they got to start there. They got to believe that it's possible, and they got to believe that the path that's going to be filled with adversity and stress is not something that's bad. It's something that's actually good because of who they become in the journey. So the first thing we have to work on is really the mindset. So we do 4 bodies of evidence there. Carol Dweck's growth mindset, stress is enhancing mindset. We talk about the power of positive emotions, how to generate positive emotions as you're working, and then also shifting our inner dialogue, the chatter in our head. So those are all things we talk about on the cognitive side. And then we get into actually how do you take action? A lot of people sometimes believe they can, but they can't take the first step. So then we teach them like how they can do that, how they take the first step. Motivation and confidence is overrated. People wait until they feel motivated. No, like you just got to get up and do the hardest thing first. We talk about Gabriella Utengen's work, which is anticipating adversity so that when hard things happen, you're ready for them and you have a contingency plan so you don't think the sky is falling. We go over a lot of things on brave actions. And then the third piece here, and it's really important that all 3 of theirs are together because 1 by itself doesn't really work as well. 2 is better than 1, but it's when all 3 of them are together that the magic happens. So the brave relationships are, who are people that you can build a relationship with that will encourage you when you're going through the rough times on your path to doing something really hard. And I use that word encourage very intentionally around the science of bravery. Encourage, to give courage, to transfer courage. You got to surround yourself with people that have done the hard thing before, or at least are going to tell you, like, keep going. There's been times like when I was on my journey to become a United States Marine, there are many moments that I almost quit. But there was a guy that was at my college. He was the assistant Marine officer instructor, Staff Sergeant Anderson. It's this gentleman, and his job was to help us young college kids like get through. And all those moments that I was like, I don't know, I can do this. He encouraged me. So if we have the 3 things that we believe we can, we take steps, and then we have people that are going to support us on the journey. Those 3 things together have the ability to have people start taking those little steps.
Yeah, I love it. And I love what you said about confidence and motivation being overrated. It's all in action. And I completely agree. I think that confidence comes from taking action. Motivation comes from taking action. And I think a lot of people get that reverse. Like, I can't take action until I have confidence, or I can't take action until I'm motivated. And it's just the reverse in both of those. Figuring out that way to be able to take a small step is the only way to get yourself from A to B, to live your dream life, even if it is really scary, having to peer over the edge of like, okay, I'm not sure like what's on the other side there, but I know that I'm not happy now. And so I have to just make this leap and trust. And it's in that action of taking the leap that I did build my self-confidence and I did find my motivation, and it improved my mindset of, hey, I can do this. I am responsible for everything that happens in my life.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree with you. In fact, if you don't feel fear and you feel 100% ready, then you're not being brave. Like for me, getting up on a stage and speaking in front of a couple thousand people, that's not brave for me. That's comfortable because that's just what I do day in and day out. But someone else, they may be really scared of speaking in front of people. So for them, standing in front of 15 people to present is a brave act. It's definitely based on the person and what they're feeling. What do you really want? What do you not want? I love that you said, if you're not happy here and you think you might be happy there, there's not going to be certainty. So you just got to have some faith and take a step that way. And you're so right. When you take a step that way, you're like, gosh, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
Exactly.
And then you feel like, wow, I feel great at the end of the day. So a couple cognitive tips that I use with my clients too is just imagining what your future self wants you to do today. Because when someone's hesitating, that really helps them move. Or else just saying, imagine if you just stay in your current place in the rut that you're in right now, what does your future self say about that? So sometimes instead of thinking about the risk that feels uncomfortable now, think about the risk of not taking action and amplify that. Sometimes that motivates people to take action too.
Yeah, I love it. And there's no act of bravery that doesn't require vulnerability. And I think that's a really key thing that people miss is that, yeah, anytime you're doing something that requires you to be courageous, to call upon bravery, you're going to feel vulnerable. I think it goes back to what you were saying, that if you don't feel all that fear, are you doing something that's really brave? That fear brings up feelings of vulnerability. In my own journey, as I'm feeling like, okay, this is a big move, and I am feeling that fear, it's like, where is this vulnerability coming from? And why do I feel so vulnerable right now? And how do I lean into it? Having that insight to be able to say, okay, this is a vulnerable moment, and how do I lean into it is really powerful to help you feel more comfortable to take action. Once you can say, yes, this makes me feel vulnerable, it's easier to say, I'm going to lean into it.
People think, since I used to be a United States Marine, they're like, bravery is like, running toward the enemy or running into a burning building. But bravery has this huge spectrum of what it is. Yes, our brave first responders and people in the military, they're very brave people. And I don't want to take away from that. Those are acts of bravery. But there's this huge spectrum of what bravery looks like. There can be like little moments of bravery. Right. There can be the moderate one if we're going to leave our job and start a business. So bravery can be like little things. And if you're not someone who considers yourself really brave, just know that you can build it and you just got to start small. And the reason why my book is called The Bravery Effect is I want you to think about the compounding impact of day in and day out when there's little opportunities and you have a choice to be courageous and act in the presence of fear, discomfort, or uncertainty, or you decide to cower, which is you shrink. Little things. So maybe you're in a job and you're not really happy because maybe you're not feeling valued, but you have an opportunity where you're like, I'm going to share an idea. And you want to raise your hand and you're ready to, and then in the moment, you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm too scared it's going to get shot down. So you don't do it. And then a couple days later, there is some conflict with one of your coworkers and you're like, I need to have this difficult conversation. I need to solve it. And you just decide like, oh, I don't want to have the conversation. It's just uncomfortable. So you don't do that. And then a week later, there's an opportunity for you to volunteer to be the project leader for something that's going on. And this is a stretch, but you're ready for it. And then you decide, oh, I'm just going to wait until I'm more confident. So none of these little decisions are going to make and break your life. But what I want people to think about is if every day in and day out or every week there's a couple of these opportunities, what is the compounding impact if you always choose to stay safe? This has a significant impact on your career, on your success. And maybe the reason why you're in a rut isn't because of the workplace. Maybe it's because of you. So that's where I encourage people, start small. It's just the little things. Start with the little things to start building the muscle. And then we know based on neurology, you start wiring your brain with brain plasticity, your prefrontal cortex, and then also your ACC changes. So it literally gets easier over time. It's like a muscle. You don't go in and I want to build some biceps. So I'm going to go in one day and try to lift a really heavy weight. Oh, well, it didn't work. No, you go in and you lift the weight and it's uncomfortable. And then you're sore because you're literally like tearing your muscles. And then you try again. So bravery is the same way. It's not supposed to feel good. It's going to hurt. There's going to be some pain. And you're going to be stronger and more ready to do it again.
And when you take those micro moments of bravery, you get the practice and you build that muscle. It's just understanding like this is a micro moment where I can practice bravery and leaning into it. And that's why I love this concept of the ownership mindset. You're right. It isn't the workplace. Even if it is the workplace, you still have to be in charge of your life and your career. Blaming anybody else is going to only keep you stuck, even if what is happening is legitimate and it is an unsafe work environment. You don't have to stay there. This is the power of owning it and leaning into those micro moments of bravery because it will help you be prepared for something that requires a significant amount of bravery, a massive life change. You're ready to face it.
Yeah. Then we're talking about resilience. Sometimes people want me to come in and speak about resilience. And I'm like, I'm not the resilience speaker. Resilience is like, okay, if bad things happen to you, you bounce back or you can handle them. I'm like, I don't want to just sit back and wait for bad things to happen or to be challenged. I want you to go after challenge, right? And you're so right. When you take the wheel and steer it in the direction you want your life to go, it's going to be scary. It's going to be hard. There's going to be challenges, but it's who you become on the journey. Like it's not even accomplishing the next goal. When I go in and I do work for companies, of course, I'm going to talk about how it's going to be more successful. We're going to move the bottom line. But really, you know what I really care about? And this is the positive psychology nerd in me. It's how it transforms the person, their self-confidence, their self-efficacy. They feel like pride and accomplishment. And it's just so important.
Life-changing.
It's life-changing. Yeah.
No one is born brave. It is something that we all have to work on. And yes, maybe people have more tendency to maybe be more comfortable with risk or try different things and not feel fear or embarrassment or all of those things. But it's not something that we're born with. It's something that we absolutely have to go out and practice and do.
It's like a practice, right? Just like exercise, you got to keep working it out. And the research supports that. Bravery is one of the character strengths in positive psychology based on the VIA character strengths. And any of the character strengths is something that can be built over time, right? Some people might naturally have higher levels, but anyone can build it. In fact, Ryan Emick did some research. He runs the VIA Character Lab now. And bravery was one of the two character strengths that people wanted to have more of, that they desired, like, this is the one I want more of. I want to be braver. And just what I want everyone to know is it's possible. You're not born with a high or low level of bravery. It's just like a muscle. You just have to put in the work and keep working out that bravery muscle, and you will feel so confident, unstoppable. It'll be life-changing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, you wrote a book on this, and I believe that you had some self-doubt while you were writing this book. So can you tell us a little bit about that process and then tell us a little bit more about your book?
Anytime I have to be brave and take a leap, it always starts with, can I do this? Can I not? And then I really feel like I have to live my model. What I teach is mindset. I have to believe that, okay, I'm not a great author yet, but I can become a great author if I put the hard work in. So I had to believe that. And then I had to recognize that it's not going to be easy. There's going to be ups and downs. And in the moments where it's really hard, I got to generate those positive emotions and then overcome any negative self-talk. So like I had to start there. And then I just had to start writing. If you want to be a writer, you have to write. So then I just had to do it. And then what I teach in my book too is a productivity tip is you can't wait until you feel like when you're motivated and confident, you got to commit to doing it every day. So I did that. And then that third piece is I had to surround myself with people to encourage me. So who's written successful business books that have gone really well? So one of my mentors is Ken Blanchard. He's written a lot of books. He's just one example of someone who would keep encouraging me to keep going. And I could give him the manuscript. He'd give me feedback. The combination of those three things together, like it's happening. It's been hard. The best things in life are on the other side of something hard. And if it's too easy, then we're probably not challenging ourselves enough. So the book comes out August 26th, and it's called The Bravery Effect, and you can buy it anywhere books are sold. It's written as a parable, by the way. I'm a science geek, but I realize that sometimes I go a little overboard in the science. We'll go, it's really boring. So we wrote it as a story, a parable. It takes like 2 hours to read, and a lot of my early beta readers said it really inspired them to be braver. So I wrote it not for me, I wrote it for everyone else. So if you feel like you want to be a little bit braver, the book will help inspire you.
I love it. I'm for sure going to get it. And of course, we'll include all of that in the show notes. And I'm so excited for you. Birthing your first book is very exciting and hard and scary. I just sent my second book into my publisher, but my first one, I shared deeply personal stories in it. And on the day it launched, October 17th, 2023, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did this. Like, now it's out there for everybody, but it's so exciting.
That's you being vulnerable, which is a part of bravery,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And when you're struggling, bravery is admitting that you're struggling and you need help. So that's
Yeah.
actually part of the model. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, I'm the bravest ever. Look at, I'm tough. Externally, they are. They are so scared inside. They're so scared.
Yes.
So yes, vulnerability. So you're brave to do that. And that's great. And when you share those stories, it only inspires others.
Yes. Well, same for you. Okay. So final question before we wrap up. The name of this podcast is Reflect Forward. What does Reflect Forward mean to you?
I love this question. Every morning I do a little reflection. When you say reflect forward, I think of you've got to reflect on something. It can be on the past. It could be scripture. It could be, for me, it's Stoic philosophy, or it could just be like, let me reflect on the way the last month has gone. So you reflect, but the whole reason why you reflect is not to ruminate. It's always something to help you get better moving forward.
I love it. All right. So how can people find you?
My website is just jillschulman.com, SCHULMAN.com, and I'm on all the different platforms. One of the things that I'm trying to do to best serve my audience is just like every morning, I do my little reflect forward in order to keep myself motivated and be my bravest self. I try to make a commitment on all the platforms that I'm on is every day to give a little message. It could be a little story, a little quote, or a little evidence-based little practice, always on little hints or little stories to motivate people to be their bravest. Because sometimes we need those little reminders.
Right.
So if anyone follows me on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or any of the different platforms, that's what you'll get by following me. So you just get that little, it's like maybe 15, 20 seconds, but that little dose is sometimes all you need to make that little micro decision to raise your hand and share the idea or to step forward and take on that project.
I love it. And I will include all of those in the show notes as well so people can easily follow you. Jill, this has been such a fun conversation. I could talk about this with you all day. My deepest gratitude for you coming on the show today. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me. I think our work definitely complements one another. So you got to be brave to own it.
That's perfect. All right. Hang tight. I'll be right back. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that podcast. Be sure to check out her book and follow her on whichever social media account you like the best. And if you think that someone could really benefit from this episode on bravery, please feel free to share it with them. And as always, if you like this podcast, please subscribe to it on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Go write a review on one of your podcast platforms. It helps with the algorithms and continues to get this show out there more so you can hear awesome stories like Jill's. All right. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next week.